Multi-tier paywalls are a great way to show off different layers of product offerings. For example, you might have an annual and a monthly plan, but within each of those durations, you have a standard and then a pro plus premium plan as well. For situations like this, a multi-tier paywall is exactly what you want, and we can help you build one today. I'm going to show you how. Okay, to get started, the first thing we need to do is add a variable to represent which tier we're showing. Before we do that, I'm going to show you the products that we're working with. So I've got 4 products here total, and as you can see, I've got a mix of annual and monthly products. So I've got 2 products for my standard plan, and then I have 2 products for my plus plan. Each of those come with an annual and a monthly variation. Our goal is to show each of those effectively on this paywall, and we're going to toggle between the standard and the plus plans, and then we'll show the right products here. My first stop is going to be add a variable. Now, this is going to be a state variable, and I can add that easily in Superwall. And since we're only dealing with 2 states, which is showing the standard plan and showing the plus plan, we can get away with just using a Boolean. So I'll call this is showing standard. It is a Boolean, and it defaults to true, and we'll create that. Now, the idea from here on out is going to be we're going to have this paywall adapt to that variable. Whenever it changes, we'll update things like the copy on the paywall, the products that are showing, or even the hero image at the top when it flips from true to false. So let's get started with that next. Okay, to put the rest of this paywall together, we're going to make use of Superwall's pre-built components. Now, Superwall's pre-built components are just things that we've added to our library to help speed up your development and design flow. You can kind of think of them like our template library. You can use it as a starting point and then kind of remix them to fit whatever branding or UX that you're going for. Now, a quick pro tip with these components. A lot of them are already driven off some sort of state or what we call dynamic values in Superwall. So what our flow is going to be is we're going to add these components to our paywall, and then we're going to make them be driven off of the variable that we added in the previous step. So let's get started with the segment picker right away. All right, so I'm going to add a component, and I'll choose the segmented picker. And again, this is normally built for products, but we can just make it retooled for our purpose here. And the first thing I see is I'm going to want this to be a little bit bigger. We have it at 200 pixels right now. Let's cover the whole 100% width of the paywall. Then let's change these labels up. We're going to say this is going to be our standard toggle, and this one will represent the plus tier. Now we have the selection indicator that's going to change based off that. And if we click in here, we can see that happening. But again, a lot of the times, these are just going to be driven off of something that we've already added for you. And in this case, we can see that there is a dynamic value driving this left property here. If we click that, we can see that it's looking at this product selected index. So let's go ahead and change that to use the variable that we added. So we'll say if that's true, we'll put it where it is. We can eliminate this other rule and just say 50. Now, again, you're going to see that it doesn't change now, but that is because we need to update the tap actions for these buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the ones that are already there. And the idea is that we're going to toggle that variable that we added in a few steps back. So I'll say update variable. We will choose showing standard. We'll set it to true here. And over here, we are going to do the same thing, except we're going to make it false, right? Because in this case, we're going to want it to show the plus tier. So I'll say false, done. And I think we're good here. Let's give it a try. Yes. Now, if you'll notice, the things above are changing too, and the idea is largely the same here. What I've done is I've made all of the text in the hero image be driven off of a dynamic value too. And you can see that purple background color, which represents a dynamic value in Superwall. And if I click it, I can see we're following that same pattern. If we're showing standard, then I have this text, or if we're showing plus, here's this text. Next, let's go ahead and add the product buttons, and then we'll add a buy button, and I think our paywall will be in great shape. All right, now we need to add a product group to house buttons to represent each product. So once again, I'm going to use one of our built-in elements. We have a product group for that, and I will add it up here. Right away, I see I've got 3 buttons, so I'm going to go ahead and delete one of them. And just like we did with the segmented picker, I want this to be a little bit bigger. Let's say 100% of the width. And while we're here, we'll add a little bit of margin at the top too. That looks good. I'll round it up to 32. Okay, so the idea is going to be the same for all of these. We have a little bit of logic we need to consider. if the standard tier is showing, then this top button should select the standard annual. And if the plus tier is showing, then this top button needs to select the annual plus plan. And the good news is Superwall has a built-in feature to allow buttons to use dynamic values too. So that means you can have your button do different things depending on a value. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this top button, and just so I can show you the pattern that I would follow to do this type of thing, and we'll get the text change first. So let's go ahead and find this primary product. We're going to say we need a dynamic value, and we'll add a rule. We'll once again look at our state value and say standard annual, and otherwise it's going to be standard plus. We'll save that. Oh, let's go ahead and say if that's true. So what this is saying is if the standard tier is showing, then say this. Otherwise, we have the plus tier. Let's show that. Now let's start small. Let's make sure that's working first. And it is. Great. So my next stop would be the pricing. Now, again, here's another one where we're going to want to look at our state value here. True. And this is where we can use our liquid templating engine. So we'll say products, and actually we'll need the name of the products here because this is how we'll reference them. Primary standard and primary plus. Great. So let's go back here. And we'll say primary standard price. So that'll show us the actual price. And then the period is another good thing to show, like weekly, monthly, annual. So I'll repeat that. Primary standard period. We'll copy and paste this, and then we'll say primary plus down here. And save that. Now, again, I got those values over here. Primary standard, primary plus. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Right now we have our standard plan. If we toggle over, and there is our plus plan. Looking good so far. Now we also need to edit the tap actions here. Now remember, two different things happen. So when we tap on this one, we need to look at that state and select the right product. I'm gonna go ahead and delete what's there just so we can start from scratch. So I'll say we want to select a product, or I'm sorry, we need to make this dynamic. We'll say if we're showing standard, then we want to select a product. And we'll say primary standard, right? And otherwise, we want to do the same thing, but it needs to be the plus. So now we have a button that's fully functioning here. If we have the standard tier selected and we click it, we're going to select that product. And when we go to use a buy button, we'd see that reflected. If we have the plus tier showing, now we've got the plus plan. I'm not going to do this for the other button for brevity, but we follow the exact same pattern. The last thing we need to do is add a buy button. So let's do that next, and then we'll test everything out. All right, so I'm going to add a button from our component library, and I'll add it to the hierarchy. And all that we need to do here is have this purchase the selected product. If you recall from the last video, we made sure that these buttons select the right product. So in this case, all we need to do is initiate a checkout. And by default, this button from the component library, it does just that. But in case it doesn't, I would love to show you how to do it from scratch, just so you know how. I would say purchase and selected product, and that should be good. Let's publish this and give it a try in the simulator. Okay, so here is our Caffeine Pal app. I'll go ahead and take a pro action, and there is our multi-tier paywall, and we can toggle between it just like we saw in the editor, and it updates accordingly. We'll go ahead and try and buy something. So let's say if we wanted the standard monthly, we could press continue, and there it is in the payment sheet. And that's really all there is to it to build a multi-tier paywall using Superwall. If you have any questions or need any help, never hesitate to reach out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.